What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and I just did something really cool. I went to the American Council of the Blind's virtual conference this afternoon where I got to sit in on a session that was hosted by their division of the Audio Description Project, where I got to listen to several streaming service representatives talk about audio description. 7 major streaming services talk about audio description. That's pretty amazing. And it was hosted by Carl Richardson, and I thought he did a great job. He chairs a committee on audio description that I'm actually really trying to get in on, but he has a great temperament for this kind of thing, and I understand why things had to be kind of the way that it did. I was kind of disappointed because it just kind of was like a promotional tool for a lot of people to just be like, hi, we're so and so, and everything's going great here. Everything's amazing, and we're planning on making it more amazing. It's kind of what I got a lot of. All of his criticisms, he gives the best criticisms in the nicest way possible. Um, it's it he I think the risk is that these people won't show up again. And I think they see themselves in the room, and the risk would be unless they knew that other streaming services wouldn't show up, it kind of looks weird for one of them now to not be there. I think we should expand this in future reference for future times. We have to reach out to other studios that are making films, but they don't make them for their own streaming services, because a lot of the conversations we have are about why audio description doesn't travel, and also about, are you doing audio description, and what's the quality of your audio description? Well, I mean, we had several major studios and distributors in there because they also have streaming services. But we didn't have Sony, we didn't have Lionsgate, we didn't have Neon, we didn't have A24, and we probably should. I mean, next time, maybe shoot them an invite and just they can talk about audio description and what they do um, for their films, for their releases. We can maybe pressure Lionsgate into talking about stars and why they don't do anything with stars. We could also maybe invite some of the lesser known streaming services. Maybe see if they want to come to the big boys table. See if they see if they want to pull forward. AMC Plus, is a great place to start. Crunchyroll, something like that. Maybe try to get an extra streaming service in there next year. Invite one of the free ones. Tubi has audio description now. See if maybe they want to show up and talk about their streaming services. Uh, I did have a lot of thoughts though about the meeting, and some of it was positive and some of it, mm, um, and let's start off with Apple, because that's where we started. So Apple's host was, I believe, Sarah, who's in Nairobi, so she got to go first because her time, she was like, it's like 10:30 p.m. Although they're having lovely weather over there, which is crazy because I'm having not lovely weather. And she's like, it's 74. And I'm like, oh my God, I love you. I want to go there right now. But when they started talking about Apple, of course, I love Apple. I already did my video on Apple. I did do a video today because I wanted to hear more from streaming services. But I already recommended Apple because they have such a large amount of programming that has audio description because they have no licensed content on Apple Plus. So, but they also talked about just in general the content that's available in the Apple Store. What I would have liked to hear from Apple would have been maybe an explanation of, there are some times when they do offer licensed content for free because it matches up either with a movie that they're launching or just for shits and giggles. Like around the time Knock at the Cabin, I might have also been because of Servant, but there were like a bunch of Shyamalan titles that you could stream for free with your Apple Plus subscription. So, but those don't have audio description typically. I haven't watched all of them. I literally go through every single time Apple drops a film, but I did click on one of them Knockaround guys, and which I don't know what promotion that was part of, but it did not have audio description, and it suddenly just put a little blemish on there. Otherwise, like 100% ratio, because it's like, well, here's this thing, and it doesn't have audio description. Um, so I would have loved to know how they plan on doing that. Do they actually create some of their own audio description? Because there have been plenty of times where I've seen audio description only on, we still list it as iTunes on um, on the ADP website, so I'm going to continue to refer to it as iTunes for the purposes of this video. But they do, I've seen audio description on iTunes and then like not in other places, which leads me to believe that they're creating the audio description, because it's not like there aren't other places where you can do VOD. So it doesn't make any sense to me. I had two people who do VOD that are both claiming that that they get all this audio description. Well, that can't be either. It's always going to be available on iTunes and Amazon, or it's not. It can't. That can't be a true statement for both of you. It's either a true statement for one of you, or it's not a true statement at all. But everything that's on VOD, if it has audio description, should have at least the two that were there that have VOD, which were Apple and Amazon. If you guys if you're making the same commitment, that means every VOD title has the exact same thing, right? Because theoretically, everybody in that room was like, "Yeah, we have a commitment to this." Blah 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 blah. Everybody was like, "Oh, we have this." It was. We get it. You guys are all here because you have a commitment to audio description. Let's talk about why you guys. What are the differences? Because you guys are all not the same, and it can't all be that way. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. If everything was great and perfect, we wouldn't need to have conferences about audio description, because it would be perfect. When things are perfect, people don't have conferences about them. They don't just go around and talk about, the need to make and improve things that don't need to be improved. So those cannot be true statements. So why is it that there are sometimes it's only available on iTunes, or it's only available on Amazon, or it's only available on Google Play? Are you making your own audio description track or not? Like, what's up with that? As an example, I think this is why I want AMC Plus to get roped in, because they have Shudder, which is releasing things theatrically, and they also represent IFC and Sundance, and they have a couple of things over there. But Skinamarink was a great representation of the fact that I watched it without audio description when it debuted on AMC Plus, and then lo and behold, somebody's like, "Oh, I just got commissioned to make an audio description track for looks like a streaming service. Looks like, oh no, it's iTunes. Never mind." So where did that come from? Because why, I still don't know what happened with that and why it's not on AMC Plus, but it's like available for VOD. For like a rental, whatever, and what's up with that? Also, since Redbox is doing like VOD, has anybody ever asked Redbox what's up? Like, what's up with Redbox? Like, what are they doing? Are they just trying to lose this battle, this VOD war? Because it kind of feels like that. But anyway, so that's my thought for Apple. My counter to Apple's amazing presentation is, you guys sometimes have free movies that move over onto Apple Plus that besmirch your 100% audio description rate. What's up with that? And if you guys do create your own audio description, why aren't you more concerned about the titles that you're offering for free as part of your representation? Or are you just thinking that because you have such a high percentage that you can take the hit by offering like 5 movies that don't have audio description? because often these are older titles, so it's more likely that they won't have audio description. So that is my thought for Apple. For Amazon, Amazon stood fast. I should probably also bring up real quick that Apple loves surround sound. I think that was one of the big things for them, was also they're like, ooh, we use surround sound. And that was exciting for everybody, because Amazon, with their, when we started talking about Amazon, we found out Amazon, when they do their little TTS tracks, or as I like to call them, robo description, because the Terminators are coming, and we're being watched. But the TTS audio description, we learned that cannot be made surround sound, that it's just stereo. So for people who were like, ooh, we like surround sound, because as Carl pointed out, we have stereo, like people we hear all around us. That's how we function, that's how we maneuver. So we love to hear things that are around us. Sort of like Turtle Beaches. I used to be a gamer, and it was the same thing with Turtle Beaches. Like you're trying to hear Turtle Beaches create that sort of like where somebody is, so that you can play a first person shooter the best way possible. And that's something that Amazon doesn't offer, because they're big on TTS. It sounds like they create their own audio description, and they're like, yeah, we're totally willing to let our audio description go back. Like, we're willing to make the audio description for the company, and it can travel back to their streaming service. I'm kind of interested to know how Amazon prioritizes those audio descriptions. Like, when they do library titles, what is it that they're choosing first? Is it purely based on viewership? Or is it based on ability? Is it based on, is there somebody who's advising them on, these are titles that are likely not to fade over the course of time, so you'll get more bang for your buck because this title will always be popular. Sort of like a Mean Girls, which is every time it hits Netflix, trends into the top 10 Netflix. So it's like, I think they just get rid of it just so it can come back, and everybody can be like, oh my God, Mean Girls. And they can get it back into the top 10 at Netflix. So sort of like that, but because it kind of seems random. I look at a lot of films that Amazon has that I would say this should probably have audio description, and it doesn't, because it's not theirs. They're not required to, and I guess the studio didn't provide it. So it's, like I said, it's very random for them, and I would have loved to know a little bit more about how do they choose? We know you do it for your originals. I don't need you to talk about that. All of you guys do it for your originals. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some things where it's like, yes, we know that. Like, we should just establish things up at the top. Yes, we know you guys all do it for your originals, but let's talk about this other stuff. Let's talk about filling in the gap. How are you going to continue to raise your percentage to get to a higher point? The Amazon representative even pointed out that she had like over like 100,000 titles or something like that, and we only have like 4,000 that are audio described. So she knows that there's a gap to be filled, and they believe that the quickest way to fill it is TTS. Well, okay, for purposes of this, I'll say great. For purposes of this, I'll say great. I know there are a lot of people who argue against TTS. I'm not a fan. I'm not trying to stand up for TTS. However, I am also a 100% audio described person. So if we can get to a 100% to where no matter what we're watching, we don't have to worry about it, it just is audio described, and that includes some TTS, then I can live with that. Not my preferred choice, but I think people, and for certain films, will always choose. James Cameron is not going to let TTS be on an Avatar film. He's just not. If he ever hears a TTS on Avatar, I think if he heard the TTS that's on his Terminator, he would lose his fucking mind. To be totally honest, I think if I got James Cameron in a room and I played for him what I watched on Amazon, which was The Terminator, which had TTS audio description, that was terrible. I think he would absolutely lose his absolute mind and storm Amazon and just be like, what is this nonsense that you have put onto my film? Because that's James Cameron's personality. But yeah, how are you making choices and how are you expanding? What is your plan? How many titles? See, that's the kind of thing that with Apple, we can ask them that about their iTunes library, but Apple didn't admit really to creating their own audio description for their VOD titles. They were kind of like, well, we take what we get. I mean, I always assumed that they were creating theirs, but Amazon openly admitted we're creating our own audio description. Great. So, how many? What's your goal per year? Of how many titles do you go back through? Like, there's a certain amount of new things that you create that are Amazon originals. We get that. So when you expand beyond that, how many titles do you plan on doing every year? 100? 200? 500? How quickly are you planning to get to that 100,000? Because we only, like, some of us only have like a certain amount of lifetime, you know? I'm one of the younger people that's advocating for audio description. Maybe I'll get to that 100,000. But I think some of the other people a little bit older, based on when Carl was saying he worked in places, I think Carl might not make it to that 100,000 at the rate Amazon is going. So he might want to know how many how many titles you guys are actually adding every year. So what is the rate? What is your goal? How many times do you commission? How many times do you use this TTS thing to help grow your database? So that's my thought for Amazon. I might get some of these out of order, but I do believe that next on the list was Disney, which represented Disney Plus and Hulu, which is really conflicting to do because they don't really own Hulu. So yet, I mean, they're hoping to own Hulu, but they actually have not completely bought Hulu. They've got the 2/3 majority of Hulu. So they're talking specifically about their programming on Hulu. And I kind of wanted, obviously Hulu is where the sweet spot is. That's where I want to know. Disney Plus, yes, I want to know, are you guys going to continue to expand your catalog, your past library of films? Because Disney has a massive library. They do. It's not even all on Disney Plus. Obviously, they have a lot of more adult titles that they just haven't migrated yet, that are waiting, from, I assume that they inherited, because they used to own Miramax. I assume they inherited all those titles, so something like Shakespeare in Love falls under that category. Miramax owned Dimension Films. I think Scream may be a title of theirs. I know Paramount has released the last two new films, but Dimension was a branch of Miramax, which was a branch of Disney. So it's like there's all these films, and I kind of want to know also how many catalog titles are you planning on expanding and adding and bridging your gap from your library. What is the goal? You're doing actually a pretty decent job at Disney Plus, but you do have quite a lot of old content. You have a lot of older TV shows, older animated stuff, older Disney movies, Disney classics. What's the priority? How do you choose? What's getting it next? When are you planning on adding? We have Deadpool. It's rated R. When are you planning on adding maybe slightly? Is it with Hulu? You can add some more adult-oriented Disney fare when that crosses over, and if so, are they going to have audio description? So that's probably the Disney Plus conversation, but the Hulu conversation is like totally different. I really wanted to just focus on FX. I really wanted to focus on FX and FX Now, or FX on Hulu. I really want to have that conversation and have a really deep conversation, because I think as of now, at least as of a few days ago when I looked, The Bear season 1 still didn't have audio description, which is shocking to me because it's been winning awards. It supposedly is a streaming hit, and it dropped season 2 today. So what's up? Like, what are we doing here? Also, they have quite a few shows where they have missing seasons, or they even have missing episodes. Like Fred Brack has had to go through the audio description website, and he's got several FX shows that are listed as missing episodes. What's up with that? what are we doing here? You know, like if this is yours, you know, how are you planning on, kind of making it? Do you think this is good for us? Do you think us like having just like the later seasons but not the earlier ones, or us having just like a season? Like the Archer description is like really weird. It's like one season of Archer is audio described and it's like later, something like that. It's very Some of the choices are very, very weird when you really look at FX. Um, there was a question that was brought up later about, yeah, that the Max representative. I haven't gotten to that yet, but she was talking about how she said, well, we just have limited resources, and sometimes we've got all this new content coming out, and it's really hard to know what in the library to put audio description on. So we got my views and stuff. Well, here's a hint for you. If you are creating a revival, a sequel, if you are trying to bring something back and make it popular, that is a great opportunity for you to go back and add audio description to the original project, because the only way that you're going to bring more people to a requel, a sequel, a reboot, a revival, whatever, is through audio description on the original projects. And that doesn't happen. For example, when I reviewed History of the World Part 2 on Hulu, guess what Hulu had? History of the World Part 1. Guess what didn't have audio description? History of the World Part 1. You think there might be some interest in History of the World Part 1 when you launch Part 2? Perhaps. So if you're... I think there's not a lot of thought going into things, but we don't call them out on it. They just talk about how awesome everything is. And yes, we're doing audio description and it's amazing and we love it. And we're making quality content. Thank you so much for having us. And it's just like, okay, but wait up. Okay, so we've got Justified, right? Justified is an FX TV show. There's a revival, Justified Primeval. That's launching like this summer. Justified is not audio described. Do you think people are gonna jump into the revival without having watched the original? Are you gonna audio describe the original series? You think, because Netflix sees this all the time. If you notice in the Nielsen ratings, when Netflix releases a show and it's like the new season, guess what happens to the old seasons of that show? They trend. So this is a thing that actually happens, where people do go back and they're like, there's a new season of this one out. I'm gonna watch it again. I'm just gonna watch it from the beginning. And they do that. Like Never Have I Ever just hit, I think, the most recent Nielsen charts, and popped into the top 10. But two older seasons of Never Have I Ever popped into Netflix's top 10. So it is a real thing. It's a thing that actually happens, that we have a metric for, that we can see actually happening. So when you release something new for that franchise, you should go back and audio describe the original thing, so that way we can understand what it is we're now watching. For all of the people who didn't watch the original thing, it was great because I missed Top Gun Maverick. I was like 5 when that came out, so I was really happy that Paramount did put audio description on the original Top Gun, and I was able to see that so that I could see Top Gun Maverick and actually kind of understand the whole thing. Because otherwise it would have just been like sound effects for the first film, and I would have been like, I don't know what this is. And then I would have gotten the sequel, which would have had audio description because it was a new film. So that's a perfect example of why we do it. And even Carl brought up the fact that because there's a 5th Indiana Jones coming out, that he's going back through and watching the Indiana Jones movies. However, he hinted at the fact that somewhere along the way they didn't all have audio description. He didn't say where, because he doesn't like calling people out, because he's an excellent moderator. But that's the reality, is that somewhere along the way, somebody decided we don't need to know that. Paramount has a Transformers film in theaters right now. Do all of the Transformers films appear on a streaming service with audio description? Nope. Paramount also had the Scream movie earlier this year, as I pointed out. Scream 1 through 4 did not have audio description on Paramount Plus. They had all four of the sequels, all four of the originals, and they just start audio description with 5 and 6. Why? These are sequels that literally have characters from those movies that directly reference. Scream 6 is dripping in callbacks to the previous films. It is so confusing if you think somebody's going to start at 6 and know what the hell's going on. It's bizarre. So we have to, like, that right there, like, this is why this is why nobody lets me in meetings, is because I wouldn't put up with this. I can't put up with this because I know it's silly, it's goofy, it's bizarre when people say things like this to me, and I'm just like, yes, but there's this is the reality, this is what you're actually doing. So so that's Hulu. In a nutshell. I mean, I could go deeper into Hulu, but I don't want this video to last for 2 hours. So we'll move on. We'll move on from Disney Plus and Hulu. And what was next? Was it Max? I think Max was next. And like I said, this lady, she was very nice. She was talking about the merger of a new service and all the content, and she brought up The Sopranos. It's like, girl, you got to bring up more HBO titles than that, because there have been more HBO titles. First of all, you have more than that than described, but there are more hits than just The Sopranos. Like, you got to know your brand. She brought up The Sopranos like 3 times. I was like, and True Blood has audio description, I think, and Game of Thrones. Like, you guys have a lot of audio description. But yeah, she's all about the fact that they have, they only have a certain amount of resources, which is what she came back with at the end. And they have all these channels because they're absorbing content from all of these partners that they have. She loves Magnolia Network. I don't even know what that is. But I know that other people will watch stuff from that, so it doesn't matter whether or not I watch it. It's just everyone needs to be able to watch it, and that's fine. But so at the end of the day, when you're talking about there's a limited amount of resources and you're looking at your titles, you also are part of the thing where it's like you're creating new content, so go back and describe the original stuff. Like, you just released a Gremlins TV series. Mayhaps that might be the time to put audio description on the Gremlins franchise. Or Clone High, for example, got a reboot. It's also a direct sequel. It's not even a remake. It's actually we revived Clone High. There's no audio description on the original. It's just 1 season. Oh my god. Like, what? Yeah, and sometimes I think these people don't want things to succeed, or they don't care. Because those would be easy answers to the question of where do we put our resources? Well, we're making something new. So maybe we should focus on bridging the gap between the old and the new, so that way the people... Gremlins is an old franchise. You know what I'm saying? Like, there hasn't been a Gremlins project since the 80s. And suddenly you have an animated show. You think some people might be interested in the 80s films? Probably. I don't know if they're still on HBO Max, but they have been on HBO Max before, and they haven't had audio description. So, at least not both of them. So, yeah, put audio description on the stuff. There you go. Makes sense. That makes sense. I answered your question for you. There's a big concern right now that was not addressed about Turner Classic Movies. And where we're going with that, because a bunch of people just got fired from Turner Classic Movies, and we should have addressed what's happening. Are we going to lose old movies? Are we going to lose old titles? Are those safe? Are we still going to continue to describe old titles? Because we got stuff on there like 2001: A Space Odyssey, stuff that obviously is coming from Turner Classic Movies. So we didn't talk about that at all. I understand that everybody has their finger on the pulse of the entertainment industry, but Max is in flux constantly. So assume the worst until it gets better. Yeah, so just some food for thought for the Max crowd. I do love the fact that you have your own audio description category. Something that was brought up later when Peacock was like, we're going to make it so that you can search for audio description, and it'll aggregate the audio. And I was like, oh, cool. The thing that Max and Netflix already have. They have it as a genre. You can just click on it. You're going to do that. Cool. Cool. I'm glad you thought that one up on your own. Netflix. Netflix brought like a film clip for All the Light We Cannot See. Suddenly there's just like this trailer for a movie in the middle. It was audio described, but it was just a trailer in the middle of the thing. It was funny. I loved it. It was great. You know, um, I Netflix is great because they add audio description to shows that wouldn't have it otherwise. So they do that. They don't get enough praise for that. That didn't come up. We needed to talk about, thank you for putting it on like Better Call Saul and Outlander. But everybody talks about how we reach out and we try to get the audio description from wherever it comes from. Dude, call each other out. Be like, yeah, we call Universal all the time. They don't give me this damn audio description. Whoever it is, who is not giving you audio description? Who are these people? Because I feel like there are films that are on Netflix that could easily have audio description, but for some reason or the other don't. Every once in a while I see a film and I'm like, really? That one doesn't have audio description? A League of Their Own was one that really caught me off guard. I was like, A League of Their Own doesn't have audio description? No one's created audio description for this film yet? Hook doesn't have audio description? There's just some films where I'm like, I feel like these are kind of staples that just kind of float around streaming services forever and ever. Hell, Amazon should have created the audio description for League of Their Own when they decided to make a TV series about it. So, asked and answered. But yeah, what I wanted to ask Netflix was they put themselves in a unique position, and this is a question we didn't get to ask Netflix. What is the metric for you deciding whether or not to put English audio description on an international title? How big does it have to be? How long does it have to trend in order to get there? Why is it that you have films that you submit for Oscar consideration, like Roma and Bardot, that never get audio description? Why is it that you allow Alfonso Cuarón to prevent Roma from ever having audio description, but yet you're willing to submit it for Best Picture and get it a Best Picture nomination, and then keep the blind community from being able to actually enjoy Roma? Why is that okay? That's a conversation I've been wanting to have with Netflix for a long time, because I want them to tell me to my face why that's okay. And because if they recognize that audio description is accessibility and it's not just for funsies, it's not the same thing as dubbing, then this should not be a problem. It's the same thing with their series. Squid Game didn't drop with audio description. We had to wait a while for Squid Game to get audio description. And sometimes it's hard because we don't know. I don't know if All of Us Are Dead. I had a bunch of friends that were telling me to watch that show, and they're like, "Oh, that's a really good show. It was really good." It trended for a while. At least I gave up on checking on it, but it didn't have audio description, at least past the time that Squid Game eventually got audio description. So how do we know? How will we know? What is the metric? How long can we come up with a rule? Like, if it stays in the top 10 for this many weeks, then it gets audio description, something. Because there wasn't really a firm answer on that. The problem is when you create something that ends up becoming a phenomenon and then you exclude people from that phenomenon, it's kind of obvious. So I feel like because they have the most international content, it's a weird question that they have to answer that the others really don't have to. But it is a question they have to answer. And again, how are they planning on expanding their list every year? Like, Netflix is the oldest streaming service. They should have the largest list of titles. They started the game. They should not already be beaten by Amazon. It should not already have happened. You were not working fast enough, Netflix. If you have been surpassed by Amazon, you need to take your number one slot back because you were there first. So how are you going to regain your slot as being number one in audio description and beat Amazon? What else did we have? We had after Netflix, I think we just have Paramount Plus and then Peacock. Paramount Plus showed up with a friend of Carl's, good time buddy. He was a delightful person, and they talked about like the history of audio description. He didn't do a whole lot to really answer about audio description and his plans for audio description. He was talking about he's like, yeah, we got a Paramount Plus and Showtime thing rolling out on June 27th. It's like, dude, I paid for that like back at the beginning of September. What took so long with audio description, and why is it that I called like I don't even know how many times and spoke to how many representatives and they had no idea? Like, can we talk about just your customer service, because your customer service is not great. Just not. I did not have fun getting the runaround and even getting passed up to like a second tier, and then just nobody ever had any answers. But it seemed like everybody knew the answer at the same time, and the answer was that the audio description that existed for Showtime was not the correct coding, so it could not immediately be transferred to Paramount Plus. But that is something that they should have known way back when they were beta testing merging Showtime onto Paramount Plus. So they should have been able to start fixing that solution that really quickly. And you don't want to launch with a whole bunch of broken content, because it's essentially what you're doing. It's like launching a video game where only one of the game modes works. And then you're like, and people are like, well, what about these other game modes? I don't know. They weren't coded correctly, and we're working on it. We'll get to it when we get to it. You know, and we can only just do just so much. Just lay off, okay? We gave you one game mode. Isn't that good enough? Not really. I mean, I did what you asked me to do, and I upgraded, and I knew that Showtime was providing audio description for these shows, and here I'm getting a Showtime subscription. And the funny thing is, he made this interesting drop where he said that we make audio description for Paramount content available on any service or app, and I think that was him kind of hinting that at like his versions of Paramount Plus. But as it's kind of well known that Paramount Plus, if you get it through Amazon, you don't get the audio description. Another thing that we kind of let that slide. Yet we had both Amazon reps and Paramount Plus reps in the room at the same time. Listen, I subscribe to all these services, so I can speak about all of them. I don't subscribe to Paramount Plus through Amazon, so I don't know. But I've heard from the people who do, and they're very disappointed about the existence of that. So that would have been another thing I would have tackled. Also, yeah, they're like, yeah, we're making Yellowstone. Cool. There's still no audio description on Yellow Jackets. What's up with that? That's a show that is actually on your streaming service. And it did have audio description for season 1, but for some reason, of all the ones that did migrate, Yellow Jackets didn't migrate. I mean, I've started to see stuff pop up for some of the other shows, just not Yellow Jackets, which is weird because it's supposed to be the hot new show. It's the one that's supposed to get an Emmy nomination this year for Best Drama Series. It's Showtime's little darling, and it's the one that also, and by the way, it's also only 2 seasons, so it's the easiest one to catch up on. Just throw something on a description on like the 20 episodes of Yellow Jackets so far, 8, I don't know, 16. How long are their seasons? And just put it. You know, I mean, I get it. Billions is you're into season 6, but also for Billions you only have season 6. So we get into the whole game of, are you expecting me to watch 5 seasons of a show without audio description to get to season 6? Or do you think that I can start at season 6 and watch Billions? Because I can tell you, as somebody who has watched Billions up until I didn't care anymore, that I think starting at season 6 would be weird. There's quite a bit of stuff that happened in the first 5 seasons. So I don't know how rewarding of an experience that would be for a blind individual to just jump into season 6, but that's the only season that has audio description. I don't know that helps, but then they get to turn around and they get to claim those hours of television as being audio described. Is anyone using it? That's the real question. Yeah, I think if you're not going to start at season 1 for a show that's in 6 seasons, that, by the way, ends next season with season 7. So, like, the last 2 seasons are going to be audio described. It's very weird. But yes, they love to tout that CBS content has audio description. Paramount Plus content has audio description. Although I would counter the fact that what he has on Tulsa King, I don't know if that qualifies as audio description. But I don't think he's listened to Tulsa King. I would have loved if Carl had played an episode of Tulsa King for him just so that he could hear it and be like, so what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Tulsa King? What age of computer microphone do you think this was recorded on? And why is this okay? And again, with the audio description, they have plenty of opportunities to answer the question of, well, if we have limited resources, what do we describe? I don't know. Maybe if you have a sequel coming out, you describe the originals, like the franchise. You just go with so that the whole thing is there and it's like a package deal, signed, sealed, delivered. If it's a major franchise and you own the rights to it, if it's a Paramount franchise, why not? They're gonna make another Scream. They're gonna make a Scream 7, but they still won't have audio description on 1 through 4. Why? Like, why is this? Yes. So I would have had lots of questions for Paramount Plus. He probably would have left. To be totally honest, I've not been happy with Paramount Plus for a while, and I had a lot of really specific questions. Acknowledge the fact that when you add Showtime, that you started out with, when you had Paramount Plus, you had a certain amount of hours. I don't know how many. We'll just say 50,000 hours of programming, right? So you have 50,000 hours of programming on Paramount Plus in general. Let's say, I'll be generous, 10,000 of it was audio described. Let's say you add Showtime in there. So you add 25,000 hours. These numbers are bogus. These are completely random numbers. You had 25,000 hours worth of Showtime programming between their movies and the TV shows, right? So you're up to 75,000. If none of that is audio described, you just shrunk the percentage, the total percentage, because we're still down here at 10,000, but now you're up at 75,000. So you just added 25,000 hours of non-audio described programming. So at the beginning of it, I was suddenly paying more for a streaming service that now was offering me actually less audio description. So there's a lot of things I would have loved to have a conversation with Mike about, but Carl's a very nice moderator, and I'm the guy that I'm the guy that they will never let moderate. Anyway, so Peacock. Peacock they've come up with the brilliant idea of typing in audio description so they can aggregate the results. I think that's a terrible idea for Peacock because they don't have enough movies that are audio described. They really don't. They're not at that point yet and they got a pass, by the way. Carl didn't catch it, but they got a pass because they were talking about the various different things and all the things that they are and how it's like NBC, Peacock, and Universal. And you got all of your NBC originals, all your Peacock originals, your Universal originals have audio description. No, actually they don't. Universal originals don't have audio description on Peacock in mass. Like it's really egregious. I just did a video on this. He clearly doesn't watch all my videos. They literally do not have. They have audio description on things that basically are Universal titles that were released when Peacock happened. If you look at before Peacock was released, they have almost nothing. Not a single fucking title. It is absolutely offensively. It's so bad. It is the most ridiculous thing in the world. This guy, I think David was his name. He was so He got off on such an easy hook. You have nothing. You have your Universal movies, your big major franchises. You have your Illumination Studios films on there. You have DreamWorks films on there. You have all these films that you own the rights to on your own streaming service, and none of them have audio description. It's laughably the complete opposite of what he just told this entire room on Peacock about Peacock. He's like, yes, Universal movies, all of them. Yes, we have. No, you have more Universal titles that have audio description on Netflix than you do on your own streaming service. It is the 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park, and you can't put audio description on Jurassic Park. What are you doing with your life? he's like, we're really proud of Bel Air. You know what? I love Bel Air. It's a great series, but I also love Jurassic Park. And I feel like Jurassic Park is one of those timeless movies. And I know that because NBC, that other thing that you work for, used to always run Jurassic Park at Thanksgiving. It was a very weird thing. I never really understood dinosaurs and turkeys, but Jurassic Park used to air at Thanksgiving because they knew it was one of those films that people would just tune into. So, and there are like 6 of them. There are like 6 Jurassic films. And I think Dominion is currently like on Amazon. It's not really on Peacock, but to be fair, I will say that I did watch Dominion on Peacock with audio description when it was part of when it came off of its window, theatrical window. So it's not currently there. But the other 5 Jurassic films are on Peacock. So that's the long and short of it. That and the fact that, again, I would love to know what they're doing with the rest of their library of content in terms of NBC Universal and NBC shows, really like NBC shows, old school NBC shows. What are we doing about NBC shows? And because you have more than The Office. It's not the only thing you own. So how are you going to go back and put audio description? How are you going to decide how do you decide what shows get audio description? And could we think about maybe expanding to things that are beyond NBC, like Bravo? Because there's a lot of, if you're talking about popularity and shows that people watch, there are some popular shows on Bravo that don't have audio description. So anyway, I think it was a lot of people talking about their commitment to audio description and getting to promote their services and talking about how they're all continuing to work towards excellence and they love like collaborating with the blind and visually impaired community. Hi, that's me. Let's collab. Reach out to me. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. That's what I'm here for. So I literally made a channel where I could just review audio description and just talk about it. Because if no one's talking about it, then the whole reason I showed up today was I literally paid the conference fee and showed up today just to listen to this meeting. So this is important to me. And this is... And I don't hold anything against Carl because Carl has to be that way because he has to get them to come back. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if they're not coming back, then we're not getting to talk to them. They're not even getting to hear. He presents things in a very nice way. Even when he's being critical, when he has a thought, it's like it's being told to you by, I don't know, like a warm Sesame Street character or something. I don't know. He's so nice. He's the perfect person. You could be dressed like an absolute train wreck and he would find the nicest way to let you know and be like, so I just want to let you know your hair's a little bit of a mess. Some people have talked about, you're not wearing a shirt right now. So maybe we could think about that. I don't know where you got those pants, but they don't fit you. I mean, he's just gonna like go through it like the nicest way. It's he's a great moderator, and I just the questions there are so many of them, and I feel like some of them were, uh, we can't be afraid to ask tough questions, uh, and you can relay like general comments from the audio description community, but at the same time, if we don't hold the the flame a little bit closer, then I don't know if they're never answering to anything, if they don't have to if they're never asked about their deficiencies, if it's not pointed out to them, then are they ever going to fix them? So anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I wonder how many people are going to watch this video, but please check out the audio description project, adp.acb.org, and I will see you guys on the other side.